All right. I will hope that my various helpers will splash that around on Discord and or Facebook. I should mention it on Twitter though. Monthly live chat is up and running on Twitch. All right. There. I have done that. Now I just have to wait to see if anybody shows up. All right. I am sure somebody will get to being at the Discord maybe. At live chat, monthly live chat, up. Boop. Okay. Okay. Well, people are starting to trickle in. Yay. I know I still have one person, I think, from last month's live chat who hasn't replied to the DM over there. And I think I think, I think that's good. We're just gonna give a couple of seconds for a few more people to trickle in before I start in on filling people in on everything that's been going on. I know that I'm currently competing with Andy recording a book on her Discord channel because I think she's doing like the Wandering in 10 over there. So I do not expect to see everyone who normally shows up, but I do expect to see some people. And I do have some people, so I don't feel terrible. I am not all by myself, so I appreciate that, guys. I promise not to launch into a really bad rendition of any songs that could get me in trouble for infringements, because that would be bad. All right. I know that it's been plugged over on Discord. I am sure somebody got Facebook for me, and I hit Twitter myself, so we should be able to start. So, of course, the last book published, um, wow, brain, Lux Voice, Emerita Boxing Day. It did the first month. It did exactly what I thought it would. Decent. It did not drop off precipitously, for which I am entirely grateful. So definitely looking forward to getting back in and seeing Doc and family as things progress in the Weird West that I've been exploring there. Pretty good, Chopper. Thanks for coming in, man. Um, Next up, of course, is Binding Words, hence the T-shirt. Patreon is already seeing the preview chapters of it. I've had a lot of fan engagement over there. Some of the funny typos and misnames that made it through the first draft have since been fixed and corrected in the coming final draft. I do appreciate it when you guys point those out to me. That does help. It does prompt me to go look. One or two had not been fixed before the final edit through them, so we get those added in as people point them out to me. So I am grateful for my fans for helping out there. We have moved the publication date of Binding Words from June 12th to June 1st currently. And we'll see if we can't bump it up a few more days as things progress. But we are still in edit and proofreadingville there. So the book is not in my hands. So we are still projecting out a couple of weeks to be absolutely safe because I don't want to promise you guys a book and then tell you, oops, sorry, it's going to be another week. And then, of course, after we get through Binding Words 10, once that releases right around the beginning of May, we are slated then for Aether's Arrival 7, which now has the working title of Moral Stand and has artwork for it, which will deal with Gregory in his adept posting along the north edge of the Empire, um, with the Northern Wilds where Yrtic are known to live. So there's some interesting information that's going to get revealed on how things work in that world coming with this book. It's probably going to be an AR chunker. Most of my AR books have been fairly weighty. I have a feeling that this one is going to join that because I'm trying to condense the entire Adept year down um, into a single book. So it's probably going to be a bit of a chunker, especially with some of the shenanigans that Gregory is doing because he is a upright and virtuous soul. Um, so I've enjoyed writing through. Of course, while I'm writing through, I'm also listening to Andy's audiobooks on AR just to help keep me in character during my morning walks. So that's always nice too. On the audio front, we are on the pre-order of Antecedents Legacy. It will publish at the end of the month. But if you want to make sure you have the audiobook, it is up there on pre-order so you can grab it. And that actually ties us up on all the audio currently for books, because I will at the moment there will be no other book waiting. Andy will be getting Binding Words 10 from me when it publishes. She is currently doing The Wandering in 10, which should run her through the end of the month and maybe slightly into June, depending. And then I think I'm either like the first book in June or the second book in June for her to record. So with recording time, her editor, me audio, me going through it, her correcting things, I wouldn't put it. And then at that point, it comes down to ACX. So her recording it, me, I wouldn't get it back to listen to it until sometime in July, probably. Once I've listened to it and she does the corrections, we hand it off to ACX. Now they did Lux Voice 6 audio in a day. We gave it to them the next day they released it. Fastest I've ever had an audiobook flip through ACX. So that was amazing. I really thought we'd be seeing, a couple of weeks to a month. Or in the very least, I think my fastest one had been a week before that. So I thought, okay, it'll be at least a week. And they flipped it within a day. So that was pretty amazing. There is maybe the chance that we see Binding Words flip like that. So if you want to be hopelessly optimistic, I would say July. I think you'd be much more better served to think August for Binding Words 10 audio. But it's going to be a wait and see. It always is. When you're not going through a publisher, Binding Words is just me and Andy. There is no other publisher involved. So, and then of course we have AR7's current projected release date out at August 1st. So it should be out and in your hands long before DragonCon at the end of August. I'm using that to segue into news on DragonCon. I am going to be an attending professional again. I don't know if they'll put me on panels again this year. I was second or third string last year when they needed to fill spots in. I wouldn't expect anything more than that this time. But whether I'm on any or on a few or anything else is entirely up in the air in their court. I don't pal around or chat up the track directors. So it's unlikely that I'm going to get tagged again unless somebody enjoyed me enough that they mentioned me to somebody there. I was surprised last year when they had me on. I think it was 5 panels. But once again, I got that email from them of, oh, we want you on these panels. Please let us know a week before this email reached you, which is how I know that I was second or third string request for them. Because they use the standard template email and never change the date to let them know, which I think is hilarious. But DragonCon this year will see me holding a meet and greet. The Medieval Times event fell through. We did not have enough people looking to back it, doing it again, and I wasn't going to fund the majority of it myself again. So this year I am doing a meet and greet at the Ritz-Carlton, which is just down the street from the Dragon Con event. You do not have to be attending Dragon Con to attend the meet and greet. It is going to be in one of the Ritz-Carlton's uh, conference rooms. There will be limited food and drinks there to make it slightly better for anyone who does attend. I don't expect more than 50 people to show up overall. That is what I told them. We will find out. I know that Andy has graciously agreed to be there with me, so it'll be a meet and greet with mostly me, but Andy is supposed to, unless something goes horribly wrong, also attend and be there. So you can meet me and her at the same time. I think that about rolls us into everything that's happened so far. Oh, there is that minor thing of me being a full-time author for 5 consecutive years. The 21st of this month, I am currently running giveaways on Facebook and Discord. So if you would like the chance of challenge coins, possibly a signed book with the limited number that I have on hand still, um, an Alpha Company T-shirt, which I have hundreds of and would love to give away to people, and 2 very lucky people, one from Facebook and one from Discord, will get the coveted red shirt cameo appearances. So if you want those chances, apply. You can apply once on Facebook and once on Discord. You can apply both places, but only once in each place. I tried to clarify that more this time because last year there was a little bit of confusion. The next giveaway like this does not happen again until October, which is my published author anniversary. So I have the one here in May, and I have one in October where I do these big ones with at least 10 people per site. If we break a specific number that I don't talk about in people who've applied, then I increase the number of gifts out to keep things quasi competitive. So you're not ending up as a 1 in 50 chance to win a prize, because I mean that's still not terrible odds, but it's not great odds either. So, and now that I've blabbered for 10 minutes and given people a chance to show up, I can go back and start in on some questions. So I hope you guys have taken this time to give me comments and questions that I can talk about, because that is how you get entered into getting a challenge coin, being one of the winners to get challenge coins during these. So I do hope you are there. You have a ton of hope for Gregory and his family in AR7. Well, thank you. I'm going to say MV, because I'm going to butcher that otherwise. I appreciate that. There's a lot there. I mean, he is up there on his own. It's just him and his men. His men, and Rafik, I should say, who's been attached to him via the Academy archive. Currently, he doesn't have any of his wives around, though Darkness did promise them the chance to communicate at least a couple of times during the year. I'm really looking forward, like I said, to trying to roll through the Adept year in this book, so we can get to Kraga in book 8. And the things I have planned. Do you mean Greg is going to have moral issues with slavery? Who could have guessed? I mean, it's not like he's ever commented about things and about how he feels about like holding Rafik slavery and stuff. So, I mean, it could come as a complete shock to some people. I mean, he's not from the empire proper, as it were. So, he's he doesn't have quite the same mentality that you would expect from most of the empire. Those fringers are weird, yo. In AG Book 5, why didn't Alvin get a why did Alvin not get a discount for his girls too, since he didn't? Why did he not buy everything at 20% discount? I'm pretty sure that was discussed in the books. He was quasi playing nice with the devs at one point Xerox. I'm pretty sure him and Gothi kind of hinted back and forth at it, and then later in the series they flatly explained why. They were holding back in case they wanted to just ruin somebody's day if the devs decided to start being assholes again. So I'm driving at work and can't really type, but I'm glad to be here. Um, I'm gonna call you Kafubar because honestly, with those letters, that looks like Kafubar. Well, Fubar, thank you for listening. Please be safe, especially while driving. Um, but yeah, it's always gratifying that people want to take time out of their day to listen to me ramble about things and answer questions badly. If I was more of an extrovert, I'm sure this would not be nearly as painful as it is. Being the solid introvert that I am, um, yeah, you you're just gonna have to suffer with me being the introvert that I am if you're here. So I have not arranged to attend this year, but if I do, I would definitely be at the meet and greet. I mean, fair enough. I am letting people know here in advance. I just signed the contract with the Ritz for them to hold the room and stuff. So I'm letting people know today this way if they want to be there at the end of August, beginning of September for the for Dragon Con and the meet and greet, they have a chance to make plans for it. I mean, if I just held on to it until the week before and then surprised people, then nobody, those people who weren't planning to attend Dragon Con would have no chance to break away. Um, for those people who live in the surrounding area, whatever that might be to you, a couple of a city or two away or a state or two away, and want to drive in and do that kind of thing. Now you've had plenty of warning, so if you need to take a day off, you'd be able to. So thank you, Dries. The fact that you've all supported me for 5 years to dedicate myself to the um, art, craft, business, whatever, to let me just smash my face into a keyboard and roll it back and forth to create stories for you guys is very gratifying. I appreciate it. This is why I do these guys. That's one of the few ways I could think of to give back to you, the fans, um, for you guys supporting me enough that I don't have to work for somebody else. I can work for the asshole that is me. Um, so I am failing badly at saying thank you. There we go. We're gonna leave that there before I trip over my tongue even more than I already do. Did you enjoy reading the responses from your Patreon contest? It was interesting seeing people picking series. It's one of the things I look forward to with any of the giveaways, Drigas. I always look forward to reading them. Even when I sit there and wonder exactly if somebody failed to read the simple instructions behind, because I have had people fail to follow the simple steps that I clearly leave for them to enter the contest. Um, I still enjoy the fact that people took the time to reply. I mean, sure, there's potential loot on the line. There's incentive for it. Um, but I always enjoy reading them because it means that somebody took time out of their day um, to do that. And like I said, once again, the fact that you guys want to take time out of your day to be here and listen to me now, or to enter these contests for the silly prizes I can give away, that's flattering as hell. I don't know how other authors feel about it, obviously, because I am only me. I am not everyone else. But I find it very gratifying that the weirdness that is in my head is so interesting that you guys would do this. So your cat's playing BattleTech now. It's not clear on the camera, but it looks like a catapult on the cat tower. The thing on the cat tower, I didn't know where the meth field's gone off to, and I didn't want you guys to be without something up there. Was something that Andy made on her 3D printer and then painted and sent to me. It's actually a dice tower. There's a hole in the top of the cockpit to drop the die in, and it kicks out the bottom of one of the legs into the little tray on the bottom. She made it for me because I played BattleTech, and she thought, well, this would be really something cool, so he could use it while he played. Oh God, I mentioned it. Its head is off screen. That's perfect. Ah, we're sorry, folks. Methfield is a little too high today. He tried to sit and failed to sit. He is out of his freaking gourd. He needed help to lean. In fact, he is so out of it. Now he is being protected by a mecha. I'm not sure how I feel about this anymore. But I wanted to give you guys something, and it does quasi tie into Antecedents Legacy with mecha, so I figured, why not? And now you have summoned the Methfield, Methfield Senior, because it is the larger of the Meths. So congratulations, everyone. If you are glad it was not here, you have only yourselves to blame, or somebody else in channel anyway. No offense, but I feel like you can't. But I feel like you can't answer your author question because I haven't been able to listen to or next book, so I don't know if I would be wanting to live in that world or not. Well, you still have all the other worlds to choose from, Outlaw. It just means that there's one that you're not positive about yet, and that's fine. You still have every other series to choose from. If you feel that you personally cannot enter because you have not listened to or read Antecedents Legacy, that's entirely up to you. But you still have all the other series that you might have listened to or read. Goddamn talk to text. Now I understand the quasi disjointed nature of that question, Outlaw, because I looked down just a little further and saw why. Strange question about Aethers. Would Cosette get a chance to learn cooking from Magus Brown? I mean, the possibility is there, I would say. We know that he doesn't like teaching people, and it takes extra to get that chance. Would you want to subject somebody you like to that? Is what that would come down to. It would take Dia or somebody going to Brown and saying, "Look, here's this young part year tick girl who is very, very keen on cooking. Would you give her the chance to learn from you?" And he would probably go something along the lines of, "Yes, now blindfold her, tie her hands behind her back, and let her make an omelet." I mean, so technically, yes, there probably would be a chance. Will it become canon? Unlikely. Oh, Dave's here. Hey, Dave. If Sean made the other half of Fiona mithril after fixing the original shame, would the queens notice? So just reverse it, give her mithril on the other half of her body instead of skin over there? I mean, I have to feel like Winter would know what she did. I mean, you're talking about a godlike entity. So I have to think that somebody of such a power and magnitude, it's not like they hand out a shame even once a year. So especially one that was so prominent that had to be dealt with, even if she felt like Fiona didn't really deserve it, but she had to preserve the status quo, I think she'd notice. I mean, just making sure they all had like metal bones and stuff. I mean, it would be helpful, but that goes back to, I mean, quasi. How do you build Wolverine, right? You cut him open and you plaster the adamantine to a skeleton. Not something you want to do to people you love. Antecedents did okay. Yeah. First of a new series. It was not Aethers by any stretch of the imagination. Aethers blew every first book of a series out of the water. But it did well enough, and book 2 is already written. It's just waiting for its chance in edits. And I will be starting on book 3 when I'm supposed to be writing book 2. Actually, when I finish writing Aether's Revival 7, I will be writing Antecedents Legacy 3 because I would like to stay ahead of the cycle. No, actually, if I want to stay ahead of the cycle, I should actually skip over to Lux Voice because I'm already ahead on Antecedents, right? I mean, technically, something to think about. How would you decide to put a series back into possible production? Who do we send bribes to? It's not a matter of bribes, Mist. The series that have stopped because of sales. It will take probably a decade or more before I get back to anything that has already stopped. The reason why becomes I need to not have major bills, car payment, mortgage, those things hanging over my head. When normal life bills come down, it doesn't hurt as much if I'm only squeaking by with the first month hitting production costs, paying the editors, paying the artist. Those series stopped because I was barely meeting monthly bills plus production costs, and it's not a comfortable feeling. So if bills come down, then it would be possible to look at going back to a series. I would not expect to see that happen anytime in the next decade. There are series that I personally would love to go back and touch on again. I would like to go back and revisit Resurrection Quest, even if it's for just one more book where I could jump, 30 years into the future for those characters and be like, and here's an ending. Um, there's most of the world still in Apocalypse Gates. And then of course there's Dungeon Walkers but we had book 4 end where kids were being born and they had settled down. It would be interesting to see that going forward as well. Not to mention Last Horizons, which was my first series, and those characters went off and did things, and I still have notes on what my thoughts were on what the next leg of their journey was going to be. None of those at the moment, for me, I don't think would sell enough for me to do it anytime soon. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, if you would have to take a couple of books, if you have to take a couple of books for the adapts here, that just means more books, and in the end, we'll forgive you. Technically, again, yes, you are correct in a way. Also, not as much. AR is already going to be my longest running series by God only knows how long. And as series go on, they have a progressive drop off of fans. So there's a fine balance to letting the story progress, and also worried that I won't be able to tell the full scope of Aethers unless I let some things compress. So yes and no. It's like you're not going to get 5 books where he's in Kraga, for instance. There's gonna be some time skips happening as the series progresses, because once a pattern is set, then you know the pattern you don't need to see it repeat as often. Hey, Morgan, welcome in from the UK. It is evening over there. It's one of the reasons I hold these at various times. I know that this at least then gives a chance for the people across the pond in Europe and the UK to attend without it being o'clock in the morning for you guys. Because if I hold this at like 6 p.m. my time, it's like 2 in the morning over there. So I do try to space things out for you guys. Uh, ooh, from Canada. America's hat is here. Welcome in, Fix. Probably supposed to be Phoenix, but Phoenix. Because we're missing some letters, because that is how the internet works. Will you please record your panels if they put you on one? Um, it gets tricky when you talk about recording panels. To record a panel at DragonCon, you need the approval of the track moderator, of I'm sorry, of the track director, of the panel moderator, and every other panelist. They all have to go, it's okay. If one of them says no, it's a flat no. So if I am on a panel, I've already considered at least taking some kind of equipment with me to let that happen, because I did have a fan last year who got to record, I think it was one or two of my panels. They would not be great quality. That's because normally you have to set up all the way at the back of the room. Um, but depending on one, if I am on a panel, and two, if people agree, there is the chance, but I wouldn't expect it. I honestly do not expect to be on a panel again. I do not schmooze or chat up the track directors, or the known repeated moderators, so it is unlikely. Which is funny. I just had a talk with another author, and I do not know if I can mention their name, so I'm not going to. They asked me about how do they get on a panel at DragonCon, because they got accepted as an attending professional this year for the first time. And my answer to them was, I still don't know. I know that people who have repeatedly been on panels have done things like schmooze up the track directors and the known moderators. Um, so that would be one avenue. If you have not done that at a DragonCon to this point, then I wouldn't worry about being on a panel this year, but make a point of talking to those people this year, so maybe next year and beyond you can. So interesting conversation. I never expect to have those kinds of conversations. Um, but the person involved had talked to me back and forth about various things before, and they knew that I had been on panels last year, so it also wasn't as surprising as it could have been. If I hadn't been on panels last year, I would have been very confused. Hoping Binding Word releases a bit early so I can read it on Memorial Day weekend. No, that is the 29th. I mean, it's not outside the pale to consider that if the current release date is the 1st of June, that it might move up a couple of days and maybe hit around Memorial Day. I'm not saying it's going to, but it's a possibility. Hope springs eternal, dies young in the cradle. It's not a hardship on us to read your stories. Well, I appreciate that. I will still be continuously amazed that people anywhere want to read my stories. It's just how I have a hard time accepting me being something that people want to read. It's an artist thing from what I understand. It's imposter syndrome. Other artists, authors, and stuff that I know have the same hook hang-ups, not hookups. Having a hookup is completely different than having a hang-up. So have the same hang-up. if they have the same hookups, I think I need to have a talk with some people. Ah. Look down the questions. Usually a push to a schedule means it's going to be pushed late. So an improvement would be a pull in. Well, I mean, you push, you pull. That's how things get done normally. But it's just because I always set out later because, like I said, I do not want to release a book later than a projected release date because I hate that myself as a reader. So there's Methfield diving off the cat tree. Okay. Wow. Looks like I'm catching up to you guys a lot quicker than I thought I would. Man, that works for me. I've been thinking about the pros and cons of all the series. Might need to do a quick spreadsheet to figure it out. Ah, struggles. You are real, sir. I'll just let that ironic bit of comment sit there for a second. Okay. Um, I mean, it's just a personal question, and maybe your answer would differ tomorrow than it would today. Um, but don't let the indecision stop you from entering, because you cannot win if you do not enter. So hard part of choosing is there tends to be so much distance between the main character and those in power versus the regular people. I've been giving it some serious thought. I mean, fair enough. That was it, because if the question was which of these main characters would you like to be, it gets a lot easier. It gets a lot easier for people. Um, but I want to know which of the worlds um you would be okay basically being whisked away to instead, because it that answers more of a world building question to me. Which world seems better overall to you as an individual than how would you like to be overpowered? So let's see. Gotta scroll down a little bit. Hey Frank, glad you could make it, man. I was just wondering if Fiona had more metal in on her, if she could use that as a hidden weapon. I mean, if you go back and read the series, that entire half of her body was converted over. Um, and most of what Sean had done was just take away the mithril layer that was skin and give her back skin. So technically, yes. But at the same time, she still has feeling in that side of her body, which means there are nerves over there. Which means if you suddenly shift something, you're probably going to feel it as well. It comes back to the Wolverine conundrum. Does it hurt when his claws pop out? And they answer that in I think it was the first X-Men movie. Every time. It's basically ripping through his skin every time. I would think that yes, that would cause a lot of pain. Um, Even with the healing factor, that doesn't negate the pain involved with it. I don't have great signal. I am at work, but I wanted to stop and say hello. Hello, Paul. It's nice to know that you're still supplying the wine and barrels to the Aether's Guard contingent that is coming into Gardenia. For those who don't understand, Paul Vat over there, Paul Vatkavich, one of the cameo appearances. So he got to be a brewer, where the operator of the warehouse where Gregory stopped in to get resupply while he was in Gardenia learning with his troops. See, not every cameo ends with death. Not all of them. I would say 50-50. And actually, since AG stopped, it's probably tended a lot more towards people living. I killed a lot of people in Apocalypse Gates. It's easy. This is so and so, and they're an asshole. Alvin killed them. Moving on. In a few cases, they were decent people, but mostly Alvin killed them. Sporks for days. I really liked LV6. I know some people might not have. Well, I'm not gonna spoiler part. Well, I guess the book and the audio book are out now. It has been over a month. I guess it isn't too spoilery. The audiobook's been out for a couple weeks, I think, at this point. So, um, what happens at the end of Lux Voice 6 does give a clear difference of how some main characters act as well. He didn't like what was happening, but there was also acceptance, and there were reasons why for it. So you'll lap the rotation and confuse yourself. I mean, that is completely possible, Archron. Um, that is that is a possibility, but at the same time, it's also not, because I always know in my head where I'm going, what series I'm going to next, because I have to go back and reread the last book of a series before I write the next book of a series. This way, I'm in character voice and mindset to do it. So it wouldn't be that bad for me. So what you're saying is we have to pay off all your debt. I mean, Frank, I don't think I have like a secret millionaire fan that wants to dump hundreds of thousands of dollars on me. If I do, I would talk to them. But I don't think that's really there. Would you consider doing a Kickstarter campaign to write more books in a pause series? See, the problem with that, Darth, is it takes time out of the normal writing rotation then, or I have to give up the little bit of personal free time that I enjoy to do that. Um, and I don't want to hinder the current writing rotation, the 4 series rotation, to do that kind of thing. Um, and I try not to stick another book into my writing cycle unless the muse forces me to do so. I mean, because that's how Antecedent's Legacy came around, is the voice just wouldn't shut up enough, and I wrote it to keep my sanity, the little bit I have left. Um, so if I was doing that on the side and then also trying to write because of a Kickstarter, I might actually have a breakdown at that point. So unlikely. Made it. Glad you could be here, CB. If we buy DJ a car, then we get more books. I mean, not doesn't quite work that way. I have cars. There are multiple vehicles in this house because there are multiple people in this house. Um, and I prefer the vehicles I have. It's just a matter of, bills, guys. I appreciate the hustle, but let's not hustle needlessly. Even Holly had my back there before I got there. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. What about an RV? I I don't want to live in an RV. I'll be flatly honest. Not what I think of when I think comfortable living space. If I did not have relationships, if I did not have multiple partners, and I was all by myself, maybe I would consider it then. I might actually at that point just, drive around the country and stay at different places because I could. With with multiple partners and what, half a dozen animals in this house? Um, I would not want to live in an RV. I love Last Horizons. It's one of those series that reaches out and grabs you by the emotions. Well, it wouldn't be in that world. If you've read Last Horizons, you know where it ended. The overall universe that was presented, though, I'll agree with that. Um, that was of course the first series. There were a lot of emotions tied up in that. The ode to my WoW rating team, the Bananas, is in Last Horizons. Um, like I said, I still got my notes that I was considering on starting to write when the idea for Alpha World hit me, and Alpha World is what got written and projected me onwards. So, if you don't mind answering, what does production cost run for a typical book? It depends on which author you're talking about, Chopper, because it's going to come down to what does it cost you for an artist. Are you using the same artist? Are you using one editor? Are you using family to help you edit? Are you using an editing team? Are there multiple editors? Are they all being paid the same? Is one being paid more because they're doing line edit and one being paid less because they're doing proofing? So that gets into a very meshy, dark, variable place. I will not discuss personal money matters. So I won't answer it more than that. But I do have at least one artist on staff. Um, he has done most of my work. If you look at the back of the books, it says thank you to Grimm, to Anthony Bishop. He has done most of my covers. Um, there's also thanks to my editors in the author's note in the back as well, and then my alpha readers, my beta readers, and then the Patreon um, tier that is no longer available because it was running much too long, and I try to make sure I don't run afoul of KDP's uh, quote unquote page stuffing issues. I don't want to end up in trouble with Amazon and thrown off the platform. So I I, I did discontinue the Patreon tier where your name would get put in the back of a book. The only people left on that now are the people who've continued with that tier, because all I did was unoffer it, but the people who are on it can continue to keep that level of backing. Do you have any series ideas on standby? Binding Words, Aethers, Anteceden's Legacy, Lux Voice. Binding Words has an ending coming, if I remember right. Binding Words should end on book 11. I say should because I am wrong at times. The universe conspires against me in such a way that I either produce a book that is overly inflated or I split it into a couple of books instead. Um, Alpha World 8 and Apocalypse Gates 8 both became massive chunkers of books because the series was ending. And I decided I'll fit it into this one when honestly I probably could have and should have split them into just two books in total, or each into two books separately, and made the series ends on book nines instead. I did not. With where Binding Words end, Binding Words 10 ends, it is the series should end on Binding Words 11, barring my characters doing something that run off and I can't rein them in. The problems with being an after-action reporter is that I don't plot what is happening in my books. My characters tell me what they've done in my books. So, yeah. But as for ideas on standby, I have more than enough ideas to not run out of ideas. Like the current one that is probably going to take place of Binding Words is does not have a series name yet, but it is kind of a cyberpunk slash fantasy mashup, so Shadowrun-esque, but not Shadowrun-ish. I don't want to throw too much out there because I don't want to have other people run off with the idea before I get to it. Um, but I have I have solid idea for next series. I am currently talking with one of my alpha readers who's seen a couple of chapters of it because I have written a few chapters of it. Just has a test thought experiment to see if the main character is who I think he is. And yeah, I'm fairly certain that I know what the next series is going to be, and he's helping me narrow down series names. Series names and book names are the ones that always trip me up. So in Aethers, we will finally get to learn a bit more clarity about the relationship between Krog and Aether. I remember that Greg couldn't get a clear picture when he studied it in his first year. Well, I mean, you're talking about myth and legend. Aether walking and being alive is thousands of years removed in the past, well before the Vellum Empire started. Sorry to break the fan theory that the Emperor killed Aether. Hmm. Aether was dead long before the Empire came around. Um, their story will probably the idea of Krog and Aether and the story behind them will probably start coming more to light, I would say, in the Kraga arc. I mean, because that makes the most sense for it. But I'm not gonna. I can't promise or say more than that currently. I must admit that Resurrection Quest was the one series of yours that I can never get into. You're not the only one. I have a handful, maybe two handfuls to drive my editor who's watching this up the wall with my continued use of handful. Um, I have a small cadre of fans who really enjoyed Resurrection Quest. Um, but Resurrection Quest was the worst period selling period book um, that was supposed to be a series that I've ever published. It was terrible. It panicked me. I really thought when the first Resurrection Quest came out, I really thought, oh damn, when my good selling series end, I'm gonna have to go back and find work again because Resurrection Quest just tanked terribly. Of course, that spot then opened up the spot for Aethers, and then Aethers is Aethers, and my panic has since subsided some. But every time I publish a book now, I start going, please don't be a Resurrection Quest. Please, please, please don't do this to me again. I, I don't, I don't want this to happen again. So please be nice to me. Look at that. I am half an hour behind you guys, and I feel good about that. Okay. That's the end of my coffee, and I need water. Water. The AR books aren't consistent major event after major event either, so time skips don't cause us to miss things. And that's the point. I write the slice of life, relaxed style I do because that's what I enjoy reading. Um, I dislike it when the main character can never catch their breath. If the book is specifically, this is 3 days in the life of a man, and it's nonstop action and it's presented that way start to finish, I can normally accept it. But if it's a series and every book is that same panicked, Muppet flailing intensity, it loses something because the people burn out very quickly if you never give them time to just stop. Um, so there are some well-known series that I haven't finished because the main character never got the chance to decompress. Even between books, there was no comment of, well, at least the last year wasn't terrible. At least show me that the main character had a moment of life to not go from disaster to disaster. I would actually like to see those moments too. If you don't mind, if we could get a couple of chapters of just the main character flopping back onto his bed, going, "Oh God, thank you, I can finally get a decent night's sleep." That's in some series. That's all I would like to see. If you balance all contexts, would you say the last 5 years have been worth it? That had to have been a nerve-wracking step to take, becoming a full-time author. Overall, yeah, my life since being a full-time author has been head and shoulders above chunks of my life. Um, as nerve-wracking as it is every time I publish a book, as certain as I am that you're all going to find out that I am an idiot who should never have published books and leave me. Um, I I am in a good place. Things are not terrible. I have been able to help good people, friends, dear friends of mine who needed help that I was able to step in and help because of you all supporting me. So you guys have not only made my life better, you've made dear friends of mine, you made their lives better as well. And that means a lot to me. I know it meant a lot to them, and they might not have known it or they didn't consider it at the time, but it's really all because of you that was possible. Um, I have enjoyed, I won't say every day of being a full time author because I've had some fairly terrible days in the last 5 years, not because of the writing, but just because of life. Um, I have had fun every day I work. Even the days where the chapter doesn't want to come and I feel like I'm banging my head into a wall, I will take that aggravating day over the best day of some other jobs I've held. Because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for me. Um, everything I've done, I am responsible for me, and that makes me feel good, honestly. The fact that I am responsible for me and the people I love. What I do matters to me and the people I love. I am not just a nameless cog in a machine, which is what most corporate jobs are nowadays. If you work for a major corporation, you're a number, and if your number stops working, they get a new number and they plug it into your spot. Um, and that's all possible because of you guys. So yes, the last 5 years of my life have been some of the best years of my life from a standpoint of I feel very in control of what I do. If I want to take a week off, I can, but it balances out against no work being done in that time. It's I'm not explaining things well. That's a kind of a constant universal around here. It's why I have editors. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't trade the last 5 years. Um, the 2 years before that, when I was when I was working for the county and using free time to write. I I enjoy every day I write, which is why I write basically every day. If I am not writing, it's because life has said you do not have the time today. You cannot do this. Normally that's, a medical thing or an emergency situation. Because even like when I go to Dragon Con, guys, I take my laptop with me. And if I'm up early for some reason before, like panels and stuff kick off, I'm having breakfast in my room normally and writing because I love writing. So thank you all for letting me do something I love. Canada isn't America's hat. America's Canada's dirty sweat socks. I mean, it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of perspective, I would say. I would say we're more the sweat laden shirt, because I mean you have to look at all of North America then. Than the dirty sweat socks, honestly. But I mean, Dave, I can see your point, even if you live in Texas and are therefore the heel of the sock. But I will always refer to Canada as America's hat. It keeps the chill off the top. That's what it does. Florida is the penis. Well, I mean, seems fair. Florida man is a thing, so that's fair. So, what kind of expansions for Cards Against Humanity are we going to play at DC? Frank, the last time I played Cards Against Humanity at DragonCon, I was told very firmly by the management of the hotel to stop. Of course, it was like 2 in the morning, and we were being really loud about it. The Foop boy, you have brought the Foopy. Our poor cancer-ridden Foop boy. Are you on screen? Yes. Him is cancered. Him has lots of cancer in him apparently. So we were going to be losing him at some point soon. We have had him for over a decade. He is our disapproving cat, as you can tell. He does not like cameras, pictures, or anything else. So he will be very sad to be on screen. But you will now be immortalized forever on the internet, Mr. Fluff, as the disapproving cat. I will not look at the screen. They will not. No! Let me go, human! So I don't know if we'll play Cards Against Humanity at DragonCon, simply because I was told to stop last time. Now, technically, I could bring it and, have it on hand for like a meet and greet, maybe. But considering how Cards Against Humanity normally goes, I'm not sure that's the best idea in the world. But you never know. Hey, Rob, glad you could make it. Maybe it's the angle, but Methfield looks a little more stoned than usual. He's high as fuck. He fell off the cat tree the first time he got placed on it, so he is gone. Busy reading Binding Words again to prep for Binding Words 10. I mean, it's not a bad way to go, Skywolf. I mean, I personally reread a series before I write it again, so I mean, I don't think it's a terrible way to go, honestly. It does help. Binding Words 10, I will preface, does have something that I normally do not do. It has a recap at the very start of this book because it is book 10. And the recap it focuses on like the last 2 books just to refresh everyone going in, because this is the True Strike story. True Strike's treachery. This is the True Strike story. So I did include the recap this time. I am not sure if I will continue to do that or not. But it felt right with this one. The reason I don't do recaps and uh, persona dramatis, the character information for like each character and stuff is Kindle Direct Publishing has very firm rules when you're in Kindle Unlimited about page stuffing, and there are no firm hard rules on where they draw the line. So they can come after you at any point for anything they deem to be stuffing, which is why I normally don't include them. I use the X-ray feature, so if you're reading in Kindle, normally you can tap a name, and it'll pull up the little blurb that I have to personally type in to kind of jog your memory about who that person is. Normally that means something like Sean's third wife. This is their hair color. This is their eye color. They're known for this. Or, in the case of True Strike, this guy is an asshole. He arranged for the deaths of Duroc. Those things. Just a little blurb to maybe help jolt them in your mind. Glorina, the head cook at the manor. This is her hair color. It's her eye color. The fact that she is part rabbit moonbound to kind of help fill you back in on things. That's all. For audio, you're kind of screwed, guys. There's no way to do that with audiobooks. English is hard, even for writers. It gets harder the more you use English, the more you realize how fucked the language is. But that's what happens when you have a language that used to mug other languages for adjectives and adverbs, and then just roll them in. So, I mean, you need to believe in your writing. It's some of the best out there right now. I appreciate that, MV. I will probably never be able to accept that though. Just because me, I would actually worry about me if I was like, don't you know who I am? I'm one of the best writers out there right now. Come on, guys. That I, nah, that's not me. I am okay thinking that I am barely readable. Honestly, it lets me be continually surprised when you guys read my books. So it works. People sometimes pay extra for hangups. I mean, if the hookup has hangups, then Shibari. Query. AG, if you return for an international book, would you choose to have them cross the oceans, for example, for example, use the Arabland gate of the former king? I mean, it's a good question, Big Trucker. It could go a couple of different ways. I mean, they do have flight, so they wouldn't have to cross the ocean, as it were, because Alvin was never going to get on a boat, guys. Alvin was never going to get on a boat to cross the ocean. With the trouble he had with lakes and ponds, he was never getting on a boat. Not happening. Since they have the Huey, and there are like has been shown in AG, there are other gates that connect to other spots. There was the chance to use those points as jump offs into those arcs. And actually, that was one of my plans for the series. And if I get back to it, I will more than likely do that because it makes more sense than to just cross the gate and use it, and then find a kiosk over there, and then load up the fast travel, and then make it really easy. Um, than crossing the ocean, especially on the water. Make sure you always put on a raincoat for the hookups. I mean, safety first. Unless you like the 10-day itch, you should always safety first. Do you know if Joe Kuster is still writing? Nothing in almost 2 years, and I got his books from you as a recommendation. Yes, he is. He used to write when he was on the road. He used to travel most days with his job. So when 2020 came around and everything shut down and travel wasn't a thing, it severely cut into the man's being able to write. Um, I know because I talk to him on a fairly frequent basis that yes, he is writing. He had a couple of different irons in the fire, and he he is progressing on things. I am not him. I do not want to. I don't do not want to put words in his mouth. But yes, not sure when you will see things. But yes, he is still writing. It just slowed down precipitously for him. Are there any other authors that you have started reading or discovered? I normally stick with tried and true. The excuse me, the authors I've read and enjoyed. Other than that, there are a couple of different people I talk to who, if they recommend a book to me, I will give it a chance. Um, and sometimes those work out, and sometimes I wonder what I just did with my life. As with all things, when you're taking in entertainment, so sometimes you agree with an individual who says try this, and other times you're like, dude, how did you read that exactly? Um, I know I've mentioned Vixen Warbride. I think his name is Dosher. Not harem. As much as Vixen Warbride sounds like it's going to be a spicy harem series, it is not. It is a linguistic, military-esque story. I really enjoyed it. He is writing the sixth book in that, which he is, I believe, confirmed is the last book in that series, which will be really sad because I've enjoyed it. Um, what else? Defiance of the Fall is a little too frenetic overall for me. The series was okay. I'm up to date on the series. I think there's 9 books in it. But that is, once again, that's one of those, the main character is in a just a frantic disaster to disaster moment most of the time. Um, I can't think of off the top of my head who writes Defiance of the Fall. But mostly I read the authors I know. I read Rand, I read Ramon Mejia, Charles Dean, um, and I am blanking on a dozen different names. KT Hana, um, I think she's doing more in her Apocalypse Down Under series. Um, but new is difficult for me since I have so little time to read. I try to stick with the ones I know that I'll enjoy. After seeing your post about 5 years as a full-time writer, what kind of jobs did you have before? Most of my working life, I was in food and beverage. Cook, chef, writer, busboy, prep, uh, bar back. Never bartended. Um, most food and beverage positions I've done. I've been on the cleaning end of it as well. Um, I worked as a landscaper with my father when I was a teenager. If I wasn't in school, I was laying pipe and mowing lawns. He did corporate accounts when I was a teenager before we moved to Nevada. We ate most lunches when I was out working with him were at Pizza Hut because we normally had at least one Pizza Hut on our route in an even day. Um, let's see. Then I spent 5 years working at the county detention facility doing paperwork, which might or might not have given me inspiration to, hey, if your best friend's daughter was, brutally taken advantage of, and that person came into jail, how do you think you'd respond? Might have been a conversation I had with a deputy, and might have given us Alpha World. So, uh, I'm lazy. I want a world that has air conditioning. I mean, fair yes. Modern standards of living have changed how people consider things. Um, you're down to only a few series for that convenience. I've seen a bunch of authors in the genre mention hits to revenue. Has that been on an issue for you to notice as well? It's an ongoing thing. It depends on what Amazon is deciding to crack down on any given time. Um, and then it's a matter of reader burnout as well. So I find it comes and goes. My series tend to stay fairly consistent at what they earn. Like I said, with the standard small drop off from book to book you see as readers just decide to not read the next book of any given series. Um, for me overall, I do know authors who have taken much bigger hits for various reasons. If I had to go to one of your worlds, it would probably be AR as a mage or as a regular citizen far from the center of the empire, or Lux Voice somewhere west of the big river, probably in Nevada or Wyoming equivalents. I mean, fair enough, Envy. Like as somebody mentioned above, though, please remember you're in the Old West. The standard of living is commiserate to the Old West, with to a certain degree. So medical is going to not be all that prevalent, and the comfort of living even inside a good home is probably not going to be what you remember or what you're used to. Indoor plumbing didn't make it to the West for quite a while, or at least most of the West. Uh, Here's a serious question: why the f did Doc not ask about the pregnant women he left behind in Dead Gulch when Heather and Posey came to visit? He very well might have, Rob. It might have just been one of the things that happened off screen. That's once again with books, you're going to have those moments that happen off screen. If there was no problems going on, then it wouldn't have needed to be talked about as much. It would have been, how are they? They're good, and then basically move on. And there was a lot to cover in that book as well. Once again, especially with ongoing series, sometimes you have to pick and choose everything that's going to be there. Doesn't it also resist change? That's why it was so hard for him to. Well, he was literally Winterborn. He was literally trying to change uh, a shame to a non-shame. Going the other way, he wouldn't have the same resistance. I'm just happy you forgot about mine until after AG was done. See, Lost, and that's how characters don't get killed in really horrible, gruesome ways. Random question: what did you find that you like about being a full-time author that you didn't anticipate? Um, hmm. What did I find that I didn't anticipate? No, I anticipated that one. Sorry, my editor's off screen throwing suggestions at me. I think I anticipated pretty much what I was looking at when I decided to become a full-time author. Um, Not having to put up with other idiots, coworkers, and bosses was a big selling point. The fact that all of the work would be entirely on me was something I was okay with. Knowing that I could take a day off if I wanted to at any given time, it's a huge plus. If I decide I want to take a week and go to Disney, if I can afford it, I can do that. I don't have to hope that I can get vacation time to do it. Um, so big as the way of pluses go, I pretty well thought about it across the board. Um, not a whole lot surprising on that front. Um, the only surprising part has been the fact that I have continued to do it for 5 years. Honestly, that was the biggest worry I had was, and this will all fall apart after a couple of months, maybe, or after a year. People are going to go, this guy's not all that great. We should find someone else to read. Um, but not a whole lot of that I didn't anticipate. Um, what the thing that I've enjoyed the most about being a full-time author is the fact I actually get to do what I love to do, which is tell my stories without cramming it into around a 8-10 hour workday. Um, because that's that's not as fun for the authors out there who are not full-time and are still producing. I remember that, and if your goal is at one point to move on to being full time, I wish you the very best. It has been the best for me. I know for other people though that it might not work out in exactly the same way. Some people need that stress to produce. I know some authors who, if they're not on a deadline, don't move as well. Not a problem for me since I write every day regardless. Mom's here. Guys, everyone, mom made it. Well, Binding Words ending soon, so fit in another book before you start the next series. Once again, the next series might be an AR, could be a Resurrection Quest, but the next book of 8G has a very definitive cap overall, so it's not as enticing to try to fit in another book into a series that I put on hiatus, especially if I then want to not write that series again. I would have to very much make sure that that book was a single standalone, which, as we have seen from me, is not what I'm known for. Uh, I was 15 minutes behind at 12:46 timestamp, at 1:23 time. I am more than 15 minutes behind now. Woo! Go us! Going back through AR, and in book one, Hammond apologized for being unable to identify the gloves and suggest they have a Grand Master, Elder, or Sage Enchanter check them out. Was that a typo, or did Hammett know what the gloves were and did, and made it seem like he was a master and didn't? Um, Hemet is not well advanced, or I should say, there is Hemet advancing in power going on at the same time, because later you find out what his rank is. Um, as for him knowing what they might have done and just not saying anything, maybe you have to remember who he knew and what clan he was a part of. So, uh, pretty sure I answered that one, Struggles, but I'll answer it again. There is the very real possibility of a Shadowrun slash cyberpunk fantasy-esque series that I am looking at to replace Binding Words. That's all I'm saying on it at the moment. Speaking of editing, I want to congratulate the works of your editors in the last couple of books, especially LV6. They were a little tighter with better beats and improved flow than previously. Um, my editors don't change pacing, Rob. My editors fix poor grammar and bad word choices. I do not have a developmental editor. My editors do not change pacing. Um, Pacing is all me. Um, so I'm glad you enjoyed the pacing of the book, but that was just me writing the book. My editors making things clearer to understand. 100% agree. They do an amazing job. Where was I? Sean can make nuclear weapons and book ensues. That's not going to happen, Frank. Will I ever write a female main character? Unlikely, Frank. The female mind is still a continued mystery to me. I'm sure it's that way for most people in the world. I know some authors who have had female main characters that act more male in a human body, in a female body than female, um, which would probably be the only way I could write a female character, honestly, or a female main character. I would I would struggle and feel like I'd be doing a disservice to women everywhere to have them as the main character. I like to think that I do okay with the supporting cast of females around the main character. Um, but I feel like I would do a disservice trying to write a female main character. So that you're writing and please tell us that you're writing another asshole MC somewhere grittier than Alvin. Very unlikely, Xerox. Um, Xander and into antecedents has kind of that same kind of toughness to him. That same kind of I will have no problem shooting you in the head if I need to. But I don't know if I'd ever write someone who was even more of an asshole. I mean, I appreciate that, Frank, but let's just say that most of the harem genre would see me raked over the coals. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Nothing's ever a complete failure. He'd be a great example of what not to do. I mean, fair enough. Work is calling. No problem, Chopper. Thank you for stopping by for as long as you did, man. Stay safe while you're working and mind the housework. It can be surprisingly dangerous at times. There's Holly catching up and telling people how far behind I am. I would like to issue a public thank you for the challenge coin from March. It is the first time I've ever received snail mail sent to my online handle. I am proud of my burgeoning collection. Well, I mean, when I ask for a shipping address, if people do not supply a name to go with that shipping address, they get the only names I have. The only time that cannot happen is if I am shipping overseas and have to fill out a customs form. I need a legal name for customs forms. Customs officials have no sense of humor. I cannot put just fat man on a customs form and get it to go through. So when you're in the US, though, I can literally just say Frank Fatman or Rob Dead or this is my name 123 and ship that because in the US, inter US mail doesn't care. Congratulations on winning the coin in March, Rob. Uh, I'm scanning. I am scanning. The thing I had about being my own boss, the fact that the guy I work for is a real asshole. I mean, that's why I dislike my boss. Slave driver makes me write every day. Oh God, the guy just doesn't listen. Cards Against Humanity is certainly not safe for a public game, right, Yak Man? I mean, you'd think that that would be normal, but I've been known to do stupid things before. The majority of those who are DJ's fans are not fit for human consumption. I mean, I have words for that one, Holly, going both ways. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and leave that one there. I mean, from what I understand, the room that the meet and greet will be held in for Dragon Con is removed from like the lobby. And I don't know what else might be going on in that general space during the same time period. So it could be hilariously bad. We will have to wait and see as we get closer to Dragon Con to see what happens with that. Uh, I've seen one author that had two separate 10-plus page character glossaries in the front and back of his books. And that author better be very careful if he is in Kindle Unlimited, because he very well might get slapped with a "you're in breach and now you can't sell on Amazon anymore" lost. That is why I do not want to do that. If you cannot sell on Amazon, you are normally going to make a fraction of what you could make selling ebooks and audiobooks. Now, some authors who have been banned from Amazon have found a way to still do very, very well for themselves. MSE is the one I'm thinking of right out the gate. He still does amazingly well. He uses Kickstarter, and he used Indiegogo once as well to produce most of his books. And he's had success doing that. I don't want to have to do that. What if you put some background detail information on the web and just linked it to the KU post? There is a wiki page again that is slowly being worked on by dedicated fans in the background, where this kind of thing is slowly being put in. But I don't think it's 100% filled out there yet. So it is an hour and a half in. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap, guys, of things. Lux Voice 6 was the last book published. It did what I thought it would. I'm still very happy with Lux Voice where it is from a business standpoint. The next book up is going to be Binding Words, hence the shirt. That will be published currently, slated for June 1st. Somebody did almost beg me to see if I can't get it out even a few more days earlier for Memorial Day. It's still in the editing production cycle, so I can't say that I can do that. But I did move it up from, I think it was originally the 22nd to like the 12th and now to the 1st. So I've already bumped it a couple of times. The next book after Binding Words publishes is going to be Aether Survival 7, which I am currently writing. And then after that will be Anteciden's Legacy 2. And then we'll repeat the cycle over again. Audiobooks. The only audiobook still out there waiting for your hands is Antecedent's Legacy. That is up on pre-order. It goes live, I think, on the 30th of this month, because that one was through Podium Publishing. And then when Binding Words gets published, I believe Andy is looking at recording it in June. So if we get really lucky, you might see that audio in like late July or into August. The other major thing of notes are the fact that I am doing a giveaway on Facebook and Discord. You can apply once on each platform, and those have the chance of winning you challenge coins, possibly a signed book, an Alpha World T-shirt, or one grand prize winner in either location will end up with a cameo red shirt appearance in one of my books. And then the last thing is that there is going to be a meet and greet at Dragon Con on the 31st at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel there on Peachtree Street. There will be some food and drinks provided. I slated for like 50 people to show up because I figured if more than that happen, I will be continually surprised and shocked. Um, you do not have to be attending DragonCon to attend the meet and greet, though. So if you just are in the area and want to stop by for the meet and greet, you will be able to do so. Everything okay? I got one here. Challenge coins. This is the AR challenge coin. I had one in my drawer. That is the AR, the Aether's Guard shield, and then the whoop, the brain, arm, and spirit, or the brain, lotus, and flexed arm for the three paths of the Magi. That is the AR one. There is a challenge coin for each of my series, um, including Resurrection Quest. Funnily enough, there are pictures of them on my Twitter accounts, pinned, I believe, in the FAQ channel on Discord, and under the featured tab on Facebook. So if you're wondering what those coins look like, those three places do have pin posts for you to go and peruse them if you are one of the winners. They are never sold. You can only get them from the monthly live chats or other giveaways I do. I do that specifically as a way to give back to the dedicated crazies who will show up to these things and spend their time listening to me be an idiot. Since I was specifically told somebody had asked about the challenge coins. I was there. Okay, I was there. I was there. English was developed by the Norman conquerors so that they could pick up Saxon barmaids and Angle towns. English then ducked into the alley to rob Germany, to rob German for some transitions and adverbs, and then quickly sweet talked the French into some more adjectives and adverbs. English doesn't care who you are, doesn't care what you feel. It will just take any loose language it can find in your pockets. Although it's half an hour later, I am in full support of authors using X-ray to refresh our memory about a character or event. I truly wish more authors would do it, as long as they don't use the automatic feature. That tends to find a mention of the character or whatever and include a bit of dialogue from or to them. It tells you nothing about the character itself. I didn't know there was an automated feature, honestly, Rob. I've always used the manual input feature. I have gone so far as to have up Word documents that I can copy and paste from, because after inputting information for the same characters for multiple books, multiple times, I find it's easier if I can just go copy paste, especially sometimes when the website decides it wants to have an aneurysm and not save any of the work I did for the last 30 minutes. It doesn't hurt as much when I can copy paste them. When I was typing them all in by hand, let's just say I had a few choice words for the internet that day. It's very time consuming for authors to invest and takes away from writing. Many authors who are indie authors don't have the luxury of assistance or other help. I mean, that's true, Holly. By and large, filling in X-ray for main characters. I'm not talking about every side character that shows up. For main characters and main supporting cast, because those are the ones that most people need to be refreshed on, that are going to matter. Will take you anywhere from 10 minutes to a couple of hours. It has cut down a lot since I've used the copy paste method. Before that, though, it was not beyond the pale for me to spend an hour or two hand typing in for one book. And that only goes back so far, because I only started using X-ray in the last couple of years. So if you go like back to Last Horizons, it's not there, guys. Uh, I thank you, Yakman, by Thomas Dozier. So I was right. And plus 23 from Shoto there for the Vixen Warbride reference. I really enjoy the series. It is a series that shows you the challenge of communication when you don't hand wave away the communication barrier that is between humanity and a fox biped race that are trying to communicate with each other without technology helping them. And there's reasons for that, and you can read the series and find out. But I love it because it is mostly a character driven uh, challenge to read. It's not just, hey, we're gonna kill people all the time. So love Vixen Warbride for that. It's not on Kindle Unlimited. I mean, if you have the money to spend, yeah, and you take the chance on a recommendation from me, I would still suggest it. Guardian at the end. Well, welcome in, Guardian at the end. I mean, is that a clue? I almost feel like maybe somebody's trying to tell me something. Was it 8? It's for Defiance of the Fall. I think it was like 7 and 8. There is more of a, oh, hey, look, he spent 2 months cultivating kind of thing going on, Paul. But like the first few books, it's not there. And then here you go, Defiance of the Fall. Somebody found them, the first to fire, and JF Brink. Thank you, Yakban. Since you walk 4 miles a day, do you spend all that time listening to audiobooks aside from Andrea? We know she is your favorite. Are Who are your other favorite narrators? Mostly I listen to Andy stuff. Mostly I'm re-listening to my own books so I can stay in voice when writing a series. I have listened to 90% of everything Andy has produced, mine and others. Some of the series I just wasn't for me, so I didn't continue listening to them, but I still bought them. I have them in case I decide to give it another go. Um, Outside of my audiobooks by her and other narrators, I actually listen to very, very few audiobooks. Once again, time is at a premium for me. Yes, Rug does have the cone of shame on. I didn't realize he had circled through. He had a hot spot, which is where an animal will chew at their skin so much as to provide an irritation to it. He chewed an injury into his foot that was infected. He is now slowly getting past that, but with that and the shaved patches on his legs from when he kept having to see the vet for his nose issues, um, we are keeping the cone on him for a little while so his legs can heal up. So for at least another week or so, he is going to continue to be coned like he has been for the last week plus. And as he is a husky, he has learned how to use the cone to his own advantage. Huskies are not dumb animals, and they are vindictive when they want to be. And he would like his cone off, and he is letting us know. Out of all of your series, which antagonist do you dislike the most? Oh, that's a question I haven't been asked, Fubar. Which bad guy do I dislike the most? Ah, some of my series haven't had like Apocalypse Gates didn't have like an end bad be all because that was like the whole system was kind of fucked up. Um, Alpha World had Stein, but he was mostly in the background. It was mostly Skippy Gilden there, who was the fill-in bad guy for most of that series. And that's why we now have Skippy in like every series going forward because Skippy Gilden annoyed my fan base so much in Alpha World. They deliberately wanted to see him die repeatedly. And I've given them their wish. Dungeon Walkers didn't have a head bad guy to really fixate on. Lux Voice has APOC, but that's kind of a nebulous entity at the moment. Binding Words has had Sharp Eyes and True Strike. Aethers has the Emperor, but he's still mostly a nebulous entity being, because we haven't seen him specifically or seen or heard of terrible things that he might have done, because of course he controls the Empire, and who's going to say those things and still get to live about it. In Antecedent's Legacy, we know that the insects are a problem. So really, it's a very finite pool once you break down all my series. Out of all of them, Sharp Eyes was a major problem. He got the most personally involved with aggravating the main character. I mean, he went out of his way to try to kill Sean and his wives. But Sean is a changer. Sharp Eyes shouldn't have been as aggressive as he was, except Sean, being who he was, kind of nudged things along. Overall, True Strike is the more annoying bad guy. He's intelligent enough to not push things right away, even when he knows there's something going on. He stuck to his guns. He stuck to his plans. That we saw through Binding Words 9. But out of the bad guys we've seen, I would say that Sharp Eyes actually wasn't the main problem. The main problem there for like a lot of the issues that were going on was Carver more than anything else, who was working with Denmir's name without Denmir knowing a lot of it. So let's go with Carver. Carver was a real asshole. The hidden Skippy. Scroll down. Scroll down. The grand game has grown on me. He Who Fights with Monsters hit home often for me. Feels like an Aussie Deadpool tone. To a degree. Jason from He Who Fights with Monsters can be very polarizing. I know good friends who enjoy a lot of the books I do, who didn't go on with the series because Jason annoyed them too much. And then I know other people who don't like some of the same books I do that love Jason and He Who Fights with Monsters. I've read them all. The Earth arc was not my favorite out of what we've seen so far from He Who Fights with Monsters, but I have read it and will continue to read it at this point. Are you going to benefit from KU cost raises? No, the authors aren't going to benefit from that. They'll tell you we will. What happens is they take the money from KU and they take their cut from it, and then they take what's left and they go, and this is the money in the pool, and every page read gets you a percentage out of that pool. The last time it was broken down by people, it was 1 cent for every 3 pages read. That is what an author got. So in a 300-page book, you have paid that author $1. So we get a third of a penny per page read at last known breakdown. But that is once again going off the nebulous formula that KDP gives us. So while technically they will say yes, it is. No, they're probably just siphoning off a slightly bigger percentage for themselves, because that's how corporations work. Amazon will not give clear, definitive numbers, even to us guys. I get You've had this many pages read, or you've had this many books sold. You've had Y returned. Then I've also gotten emails that went, oops, sorry, we made a mistake. These were the actual numbers. And since they don't give us the numbers ourselves with any kind of accounting on them, we have only their word for it. And at the same time, without Amazon, I'm not sitting here doing this. So good and bad, good and bad. Hey, Ghosted in. Glad you can make it. We're at this point almost 2 hours in. You joined us 40 minutes ago. Welcome to the live chat. I'll catch up. I'll get there one of these days. Out of physical sales versus audiobook sales, which perform better? Um, Audiobook would outperform physical, honestly. Physical sales, guys, I might maybe sell 3 physical books a week on average. It's small. I could probably raise that if I went to Amazon exclusive sales, but instead I have expanded distribution, which I get way less money from, which is why my books cost $24.99. Because I would like to make a little more than $1 selling them, and you being able to get them through, like a Barnes and Noble or something if you want, as opposed to them only being on Amazon. So I make more money off of audiobook. That being said, it's a fraction of what I make from Kindle Unlimited and ebooks. I do audiobooks and physical books because, well, I do physical books because some people like to collect. That's the only reason they're made. Some people want the physical copy they can put on a shelf or pick up and read. Mostly it doesn't cost me anything, but it does mean the price is expensive, so I don't lose money when you buy them. Audiobook, the only reason I really got into them to begin with is I knew that I had trucker fans that didn't have the time to read. I have a personal friend who's basically dyslexic and cannot read, and I wanted them to be able to enjoy my work. So I still make money off audio sales. Don't get me wrong, but it's a fraction of what I make from ebooks, and physical books is a fraction of that. So I think I broke his brain with my question. Well, Shoto, I mean it's fair. People break my brain on and off. I just turn it off, turn it back on again. Standard reboot protocol. I am. What does your average workday look like? Do you write for a specific number of hours and edit for a specific time? I actually don't edit at all, or very little editing, I should say. I have a couple of editors who do my editing for me. And when they get to a point where my brain and my fingers have just utterly failed to produce anything even remotely intelligible, I normally get a can you look at this and tell us what the fuck, dude? Um, I do very little editing. I have editors now, which lets me focus more on writing. I do not write for a specific number of hours. I have a minimum goal of 1 chapter a day. 1 chapter a day will let me produce a book every 2 months without feeling like I'm stressed at all. And as long as I can do that, that means you will get 3 books every 2 years for every series I produce. Because you would get 1.5 basically, 6 books in a year, which is once around, and then two, and then two, and then once around again. Um, and that is where I want. That is why I don't add a 5th series to a rotation, because I don't want you guys to only get 1 book a year or 1 book every 2 years like a traditionally published author would do to you. Now, mind you, that would still be, every series and not just 1 book, period. But I don't want you guys waiting 2 years in between the next AR release or any of my other series. So I average minimum one chapter a day. There are days I hit 2 chapters a day, and I really enjoy those days. There are the rare days where I will get through 3 chapters a day, when the words are just flowing and everything is amazing. And there have been a couple of times they are they are not even blue moons are more common than me getting 4 chapters a day. But I have hit 4 chapters a day before. But that's like everything in the world lining up, the sun parts, the planets align. It's an amazing day when those happen, but I don't push for them. They happen when they happen. I find that a lot of authors will burn themselves out if they try to. I need to hit 5,000 words. I need 15 chapters this week. So mine is a nice relaxed pace. I feel like I can do it for the next 50 years and be perfectly fine. I would be 92 years old at that point. I am not sure my brain would let me write anymore, but at the moment, I'm game. Uh, I answered that one. Oh, you had it in there twice. Uh, it's okay, struggles. The bus was real. I want to thank you for your username, struggles. There are so many things I can use to just tack onto and allude to using struggles and make it work. Newbie in general, so I don't know if this was answered before. What inspired you to write harem specifically? Guardian of the End. I currently have multiple partners. I have 2 girlfriends. They live here with me. They help me with my work as well. Um, One of them was helping me all the way back at the very beginning with Last Horizons, um, and one of them came in later. But I have had multiple partner relationships for a good chunk of my life at this point. And when I when I when I started writing, the old adage of "write what you know" was still being flung around hard and heavy, and I went, I can write multiple romance relationships. That's fine. Um, and honestly, I have had more multiple partner relationships than I've had single partner relationships in my lifetime. Um, so while other people might find it weird, the idea that multiple partners are something that can happen, I find it normal and just how life works to me. So I write harem because it's what I know, it's what I love. Um, I hope that it's what I love. I mean, if I didn't love both my girlfriends, I would wonder what was going on in my life. Um, so I mean that kind of answers it. I I'm his translator. Thank you, Sammy. Um, when I see the occasional threads on like the harem Facebook pages about how come all the women in harem are bisexual, the number of female partners I've had that have been bisexual versus absolutely straight, won't touch another woman in bed, has skewed heavily towards the bisexual, bi-curious, pansexual, or any of the other um, terms you wish to use outside of just straight, um, as opposed to just straight. So I always find those threads funny as well because, well, my life has pointed to what I write as being the norm as opposed to what other people consider the norm. So if Apocalypse Gates had gone on, what would we have seen from other pantheons such as the Egyptian gods or the Greeks? Would have loved to have seen Team Asshole's reaction to the Greek pantheon. I'm fairly certain that Alvin and Zeus would have had some problems, like real problems, because Zeus was a, ooh, she looks hot. Let me see if I can fuck her as a swan, as a golden shower, as a bull. And if he had like tried to move in on any of Alvin's women, I can see a pantheon war going down real quick because Zeus is an asshole. Um, the idea of other pantheons being shown was always on the table for AG though. I mean, I thought that was kind of a build up with some of what we saw, especially near the end. Are you ever planning on visiting a New England con? If Andy ever holds a Maven con, which she has joked about before, she lives up in the Maine district of the United States. I would probably fly out there for that because I love Andy to death. Um, Getting me to go to a con is not normal. I go to Dragon Con because like 90% of the people that I am friends with and are in the genre show up at Dragon Con. So I can network and do business. I can do network businessy stuff and still have a good time and see people I want to see all at the same con and make it work as a business expense. Um, I suck at selling myself as an author. So like visiting other cons without that safety net of people I know and enjoy being around makes it really hard for me to ever visit another con. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but it's unlikely. Like I have friends who live in Houston and there are some big conventions in Houston and I could totally go down there and do one of those cons. And at the same time, I'm probably never going down there to do one of those cons. I can't recall which book it was in, but in one of the earlier tomes, you had a character named Daniel Shinhofen. Was that you or your father? Daniel Shinhofen has made an appearance in a couple of series. I know he was a failed dungeon walker who had his shards pulled out, for instance. And I'm just gonna leave it there. You'll have to figure out which Daniel Shinhofen that was. Uh, do, do. It's okay, Guardian. Everyone starts somewhere. Um, and that's what these live chats are for, is answering questions. So ask away, and I try to answer most of them. I do ignore some that just annoy me or I don't see. Or sometimes when it's a flat spoiler type question, I'll just stare at the camera. Like, why are you asking something you know I'm not gonna reply to? That's true. MSC did have a very strong fan base before the Amazon debacle. So he did have that to fall back on. Given the recent reveals of popular authors who have admitted to using AI to help them write books, what is your stance on? I did not know that was something that was going around and being admitted to. I have never used an AI. I'm not sure an AI could match what was in my head, honestly. And if they did, I'd very much worry about what that AI was going to do with the world. Because I know who I am. I If other people are using AI to write, I mean that's on them. At that point, though, you're not a writer. You are an editor. You are taking somebody else's words, in this case, an artificial intelligence, and you are editing their words to your own end. Um, so I won't condemn them if that's really what they want to do. I will continue to write the words in my head, though. I find great pleasure in knowing that they're my words. I mean, if people are making money off of it, though, that's the way things work in the world nowadays. If I ever fall off because those become more popular, then I guess I'll have to go find another job again. And there's a question on challenge coins, which I answered. Okay. Uh, doo 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 doo. I'm going down. Just comments. The binding words coin is one that I really enjoy. Lost the Celtic because it has this for one of the sides. It has the Binding Words logo. So up or loud. Okay. Okay. I'm slowly cruising through these comments over here. I'm pretty sure I answered that one, Rob, but I'll do it now. Loki has stopped bleeding from the nose. The last little drip he had a couple of days ago, we're pretty sure just because it's starting to dry out again and he's on medications. But it was like literally like 3 drops of blood from his other nostril, the one that had been gushing. Um, he had chewed himself a raw spot on his one foot, which got infected that we've been taking care of, and he's been in the cone for a bit now to let that heal and also to let his shave spots from the nose injury slowly heal back up as well. I agree with your assessment of Defiance of the Fall. The first few books were frantic, so I enjoyed them, but it continued to be there. Still enjoyable, but losing steam for me. Hopefully, I mean that is there's a transition there. It's a matter of I don't want to spoil things, so and I don't think it's much of a spoiler. It's him trying to survive, basically a system apocalypse type setting of cultivation, and then what comes with that for those he knows and loves, and then expanding off into the greater universe. There was always going to be a bit of a slowdown in that. Um, but I've been fine with the quasi slowdown and the slow expansion of everything out there. The fact that there are beings still much more powerful that can squash him without a thought, even where he is. But that's just the way that system was always been. Actually, no. Our husky is basically a mute husky. He very rarely woos. He just uses it as a bludgeon. He just runs into you with it and slaps you with it because he's husky and therefore too smart for his own good. The other day, he snuffled the cat and then lifted his head up and flung the cat because the bottom of the cone turned into a catapult. So yeah, it is turning into the weapon of shame instead of the cone of shame at this point. Yes. Uh, I love that years from now, new fans who have yet to read Alpha World will be wondering about the origins of the Skippy guy and why he keeps dying in all of your books. I have fans today that don't understand because they haven't read through Alpha World yet. I keep seeing this bad guy named Skippy keep turning up and dying. What's going on with that? Which is why I answer the questions when I get asked them on here. I think it's funny when they talk about the darkness in Lux's voice, and it makes me think of Darkness from Aethers, and I can see her cackling, but need more power for Gregory. The voices are completely different, though. I mean, obviously, there that and I don't that and I don't do crossovers. If I did crossovers, Drigas, that opens up a lot of doors. On the subject of Vixen Warbrand, for those who haven't read it, the key drama and fun of the story is how two people who have no reason to trust each other force themselves to work together, even though they have no idea what the other person is saying. I mean, that's a fair breakdown, Shoto. That's a fair breakdown. I swear that Garfield plushie is staring into my soul. You mean Methfield? If you look up Garfield plushies on Amazon, you'll eventually find this cracked out cat thing. And if you find the right listing, there are hundreds of reviews for it, and they're hilarious. So I haven't looked at the numbers in a while, Xerox, but I know it's less than I make on basically everything else. Physical books are basically just there for collectors who really want them. Do you have levels of editors? The first level can handle your writing style, then the next level from the first editor. Um, I have primary editor and secondary editors. Primary editor, Sammy Cat, who takes the raw head face smash roll words that I give her and turns them into something that everyone else can look at and not bleed from the eyes with. And then I have other editors like Serenia who will go through after her and help clean up some more of the stuff that made it through because Sammy's eyes were bleeding too much and she missed a word or two. So, yeah. I think that's a fair breakdown. It is my it is my wife's it is my wife's first initial and my first initial with my last name. We have been struggling together for many years now. So it's ST Ruggles. Got it. I'm gonna stick with the headcanon of struggles. Just just struggles. Life is a continual struggle, and you've just embraced that twice, in fact, because it's O2. So obviously the second edition of the struggles. And I'm good with that headcanon. I think it works out. The sun parts. I'm now picturing Sean shaping the sun in half while everyone looks on in shock, and his wife just shake their heads. I mean, Cheddar. I'm not saying it's impossible. That's all I'm saying. It's not impossible, right? You get into a certain power level as a deity, and some things just might be able to be done. Uh, no problem, Struggles. Thanks for stopping in. I'm glad you made it for as long as we were going. We are a little over that. I'm only 10 minutes behind now, so I think I'm going to catch up on everyone here, and then we're probably going to call it a day. What is the longest monthly live chat you've had? I think it was like 3.5 hours, Paul, and that was like a year, 2 years ago. It has been some time since I had that live chat. Most of them are about 2 hours. Uh, let's see. Pop. My gaming tastes run into the less crunchy systems than D&E and its offshoots. 5e isn't nearly as bad as 3.5 Shoto, but yeah, it still gets kind of crunchy. For less crunchy systems, Fate is always a good one. That is a heavy role play system though. You need your players to want to step into character for that. D&D is great for the people who don't want to step into character or only want to dabble with character and would much rather kill things and get loot. I just joined and saw you were talking about Defiance of the Fall. How about He Who Fights with Monsters? Have you read it? So yeah, yep. You did join a little late, JM. I have talked about He Who Fights with Monsters and Jason, and I have read it, and I am up to date on everything published through Amazon because I don't use Royal Road. So who is Skippy and what did he do to you? This isn't a future fan, Frank. That is those are questions I get today. So it'll just be an ongoing then instead. It's hard to make crossovers work. William D. Aran is probably the most interesting success on that end. Trying to tie in all the different plot threads is something I look at Will for and just look on in awe, because trying to keep all of that straight is just wow. So yeah, he meant Vixen Warbride. It'd be VWB McKnight. That's I think it's is it Vixen Warbride or War? Yeah, it's Vixen Warbride. VWB. I'm fairly certain. Besides writing and cooking, what do you consider your strongest skills? Annoying people. I'm fairly good at that. Um, I have I have annoyed most of my coworkers and bosses in my time. Some of the best questions I've ever been asked during a job interview are, "What are your strengths?" "Well, I'll always be early for work." "Well, why is that a strength?" "Because when I show up half an hour early every day, people will get annoyed." They thought that was funny. Then I showed up for work half an hour every day, early half an hour every day, and people got annoyed. Go figure. I mean, I told them I was going to. I don't mind telling people the flat truth, especially when they ask me a question. You'll be Most people are surprised when I do that, because most people expect, like a soft lie, something to ease the sting. I don't ease the sting. Normally, if you're going to ask me a stupid question, I'm going to flatly tell you why it's a dumb thing. My bosses have learned that firsthand. If I hadn't been so good at most of my jobs, I probably would have been fired from more of them. As much as I would love physical copies of my favorite books, I can no longer allowed to buy books. The life. I mean, li- life and relationships is all about compromise, Ghosted in. And remember, happy wife, happy life. My father used to say, uh, what was it? It was, when your wife is happy, God is happy. God is easier to please. How my mother hasn't killed him yet is still a surprise to all of us. Dad is probably watching with mom right now. I'm fairly confident I can get away with that one. Uh, yeah, Shoto, also known as Bill to some of us on Discord, um, has the old curmudgeon blog where he reviews books. He's one of the people I normally get my new authors I should look at suggestions from. One of the few who, if says this book is amazing, you should read it, I give it a shot. If I start buying books again, I will be thrown out of this house. Didn't we have like 80 people in that 3 hour live chat? No, Xerox. We had, I want to say, like 50. I want to say it was 50. Yeah, it was about 50, I want to say. I don't think I've broken 60 in any of them. Um, yeah, if you ping Shoto on my Discord, he can help you out. Because he has that name over there. He has his thing. You've been doing that for 2 years now, haven't you? I think we talked. I think you mentioned it on your Discord server just the other day. It's been like 2 years of you updating that blog. So congratulations on that. Sneaks up on you before you know it. I mean, like I mark down every new calendar. Oh, by the way, full time anniversary X year, and then I get to that month and I'm like, oh, it's the 5 year anniversary. 5 years. What? So they sneak up on you when you least expect it. Uh, I think I have caught up on everyone. I have indeed caught up on everyone. So a little over 2 hours, 2 hours and 20 minutes at this point, everyone. I do want to thank you all for coming. We're going to go ahead and end out the live chat since I've caught up on questions. Oh, can I show the dice thrower? Okay, hang on. Oh, and I got to pull that out of there. So the thing there's the hole in the top of the head. Where's the foot? It was that one. There's the camera. There's the hole in the foot where it comes out. Andy made that for me because she is amazing, and she knew that I played BattleTech, and she was like, "This will be cool. You could have it on the table." So, of course, by the time she sent this to me was when my friends had their meltdown at each other, and we haven't played BattleTech since then. But one of these days, I'll get back to it again. I'm talking to my friend about clearing his table off and getting back into it occasionally. So the next live chat, guys, June 15th. It is going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific, so an hour later start than this month's. For those who want to show up again, I will be getting a list of names, randomly generating the winners, DMing them via Twitch, where this is being held. So check your Twitch DMs in the next couple of days if you would like a coin. If I've DM'd you, I need a reply. I need your mailing address and the coin you want, and I will remind you of that when I DM you. Otherwise, I will see you guys next month, and by then, Binding Words 10 will be out. So something to look forward to. So stay safe until then, guys. The world is still a crazy, crazy place. Bye.